This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Dominski, and this is the show that gives you the information you need to make your next move a great one. Today I'm sitting down with Marie Jedd from Marie's Promise Clean Home. Marie's Promise is a local residential house cleaning service in the area. You guys service most of Chester County?
Yes, we do basically all of Chester County, and we're probably going to be branching out to Delaware soon.
Oh, cool. Now, so real quick, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you guys do and kind of the services that you offer?
Okay, like you said, we're a local residential cleaning company. The services we offer are basically recurring cleanings and one-time service, deep cleanings, move-in, move-out cleanings. Okay.
Yeah, so what would you say... So you have the move-in and the move-out cleanings, and that's pretty important when people, because we see a lot of people buying and selling houses in the area lately. What's the difference between that and a typical cleaning?
The difference in between moving clean, as we call it altogether, and a recurring clean is there's different items that need to be cleaned when people are moving in, moving out. They don't necessarily need to be cleaned every week or every 2 weeks when people are getting a recurring service. But when somebody sells a home, a lot of furniture gets moved out of the way, so there's a lot of areas that are exposed that are normally not exposed when people are living in the home. We're also getting inside the cabinets, inside the appliances, and all those things that are usually filled with, things when people live there, like closets and all of that. So we get deeper into every nook and cranny in the house.
And that's usually the move in, like when someone buys. So when someone's selling a house, so we'll start with the seller, then we'll move on to the buyer. So usually it's so if someone's selling a house, are they more so thinking like, oh, I want this to present as much as possible, or are they kind of thinking like, I just want to get out of here? We just need something light just to make it look good. And because you said there was a couple different kinds of move out. We'll start with the move out.
So there's two different packages that we offer for, we just call it moving clean, whether you're moving in or moving out. We offer a standard moving clean and a detailed moving clean. People who are moving out typically select a standard move in, move out clean. Which is not as detailed, obviously, as the more high-end package, but it's not always the rule. Some people do want to sell the house and pass on the house in the best condition possible. They don't want it to be just good enough, but mostly it's the buyers who select the detailed move-in clean. Yeah,
because obviously. So someone's looking to sell their house. They're going to list their house. It's good to have a clean house when time for photos and videos and if you're going to start showings and stuff like that. So do you get people that are looking like they're about to put their house on the market, so they need it cleaned up for like photos and stuff like that?
Yes. So that would be typically still considered a deep clean as far as regular residential cleaning, because it is still occupied. People are still living there. Their clothes are there. All their furniture is in there. So that would be a standard deep clean that we offer even to our recurring clients. If somebody wants to do that twice a year, once every quarter, they do a big Christmas cleaning or spring cleaning. So we do offer those while people are still living in there. But once they move out, that's when we get into, inside the cabinets, and like still we have to touch up on all the baseboards around the house where your couch was and your dresser was when all the furniture is out of the house.
So that would be like, I'm selling my house. Let's say I'm closing on Wednesday. We're going to be moved out on Monday, and you would try to set something up, if you're available, like Tuesday or so before the new people come in. And this is what and there's some overlap actually. There's a real estate term called broom swept.
Yes.
And I think our definitions are probably the same because when you, for the most part, unless it's negotiated otherwise, when you buy a house, part of the agreement of sale says it's going to be in broom swept condition. How do you guys define broom swept? Because let's face it, a lot of real estate agents literally define it as, well, I took a broom and I swept it, therefore it's broom swept.
We actually don't even carry a broom.
Yeah.
We do sometimes, but it's mostly for the garage. We don't sweep houses. It's all vacuumed and mopped.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just too long of a process with the broom.
Yeah.
Yes, but it is, again, it's all up to the client who is ordering the cleaning. You know, we can just do the standard cleaning, like mentioned before, but we just can't still clean something and leave it dirty, right? Like if it needs to be cleaned, we're gonna spend an extra time on that specific area. Like usually it's the bathrooms and the kitchens that are in the need of the cleaning most. But what is considered like the broom sweep clean is not detailing all the doors and door handles and all the woodwork around the house, and it's just getting rid of cobwebs and like the surface cleaning of what typically gets cleaned. You know, your counters, bathroom sinks, toilets, all of that gets done.
Yeah, one thing that I would suggest, that I would kind of throw out there now, because you probably don't see this side, you don't actually, you're not going to settlement with these people, but I actually believe that a good cleaning beforehand could definitely help that settlement go a lot smoother. Now, in the last couple of years, we've seen people, like, you put a sign in the ground and the house is gone within hours. However, I've been in the industry for long enough to where people were a little contentious and they were a little bit nervous, even at settlement. It's like the last thing you want to do is have the buyers do their walkthrough, show up at settlement and be like, well, I didn't really like this, I didn't really like that, this was dirty, that was dirty. And even if they get the feeling that they're getting a house that's not necessarily prepared for them, or they feel like they're a little like bait and switch because it showed really nice, but once everything was out, you're like, oh man, this is kind of like a dingy house. They're not excited about the house. So I think part of it is, it's kind of an investment too, because you're getting, when that buyer goes through that walkthrough, you're increasing their excitement, which is going to follow them through to closing. And, real estate agents, they don't want to admit this, but we're always nervous that something's going to come up and there's going to have to be something that's negotiated at the settlement table. We try to avoid that as much as possible. A good real estate agent would. But it's just to add that extra little excitement for the buyers when they go through that walkthrough. That's important. And it does, it does carry through the rest of the deal, making sure everything goes smoothly. And then if there are any negotiations, that's probably going to help go your way if they're that much more excited. And so that's where like the broom swept cleaning service does make sense. But so so you also have the move in people. So you say move in, move out, but we start with move out, move in. So now this is where the person who's actually going to live there wants it cleaned.
Yes.
Now they bought a house, it's broom swept. What are you guys going in and doing for like a move-in service?
When we do a detailed move-in cleaning, we touch every surface in the house. Again, it's all the surfaces in the kitchens, bathrooms, all the woodwork around the house, all the light fixtures get cleaned. We do inside the cabinets, we do inside the appliances, we do all the doors, door frames, windows, blinds. Anything you can think of inside the house gets cleaned. Yeah.
And that's usually when someone's like, okay, it's clean, but we need it to our standard. So
Yes.
Now, do you feel like you have a pretty, I mean, this is an obvious question, but you feel like you have pretty high standards when it comes to your definition of clean?
Yes, we do. I personally, I have a hard time walking through someone's home and not checking everything out, every surface, every door handle, every light switch, and the vents, AC vents, those get always dusty. Definitely, our standards of clean are very high.
Yeah. So real quick, a little bit about your background and how you got into the industry, because we were talking about that earlier, and that probably has a reason why your standards are so high, I would say.
Probably.
So how did you come up, like, how did you get into the cleaning services?
Well, I studied hospitality management back home in Europe, and throughout my years in college, I always worked in hotels and hospitality. And when I moved to the United States, I naturally transitioned into the hospitality industry over here as well. And I worked in hotels. I worked in the front end of the hotels through director of housekeeping all the way up to assistant general manager of a couple of hotels. And so, especially when I was a director of housekeeping, I had to inspect hundreds of rooms every day. And you get your inspections get inspected by the inspectors from from the corporate office.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everything has to be just
Well,
right.
and also if you're assistant general manager, you're probably also dealing with the guests too,
Yes.
and dealing with their standards and what they think
Yes.
is appropriate and not, and having to constantly, because if the housekeeping doesn't, if they miss a standard, I feel like it's going to end up coming back to the
Yes.
manager. So, and then you were saying, and then so transferring from that into starting your own business, you said the lockdown had a lot to do with that.
Yes. So obviously, when COVID started, the hospitality business got hit really hard. I was laid off for a couple of months, and when I came back, I came back with a pretty substantial salary cut. So I started thinking already while I was laid off. I was thinking, what's going to happen with the world? What am I going to do?
Right.
Can I ever go back to work? I didn't know. So I
Oh,
started
yeah.
thinking about what can I do.
I remember that. I remember thinking personally, I was like, well, I guess hotels aren't going to be a thing anymore.
Exactly.
I was shocked when cruise ships came back. I thought we were just going to. We were just done doing that. I thought we were just going to turn them into museums or something. It was so weird, such a crazy time.
Yeah.
But cleaning, I feel like that's when everyone kind of took a second look at sanitariness, cleanliness, their own personal cleaning, the cleaning of the restaurants or the stores that they're in.
Yeah.
Everyone got really aware of that to some degree.
That was definitely a factor. I really enjoyed being a director of housekeeping, even though I did got promoted. I did get promoted up to the assistant general manager, but I really enjoyed the years that I was inspecting and managing the team of housekeepers. I'm also fluent in Spanish, so that was kind of natural for me. It was a good environment for me to be in. And
so how many languages do you speak then?
well, I speak my own Czech, English, and Spanish. Those are all fluent. And then a little bit of Italian, a little bit of French.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a little bit more than I do of anything. So yeah, not only, usually you don't get, what's it, polyglot house cleaners that speak 5 different languages, but
Yeah. But I did start the business knowing I wanted it to grow to be a business. I didn't want to just be a solo cleaner and clean houses on my own. That was the goal. I just wanted to take the experience that I got in the hospitality industry. And as an assistant general manager, I was in charge of, scheduling, ordering, payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and reporting, budgeting, and all of that. I'm like, okay, well, I can probably take all of that and apply it to something on my own. And house cleaning just seemed like it made sense for me.
Yeah. Is there any differences between now that you're doing your own business and you have to hire and manage employees? Are the challenges similar to when you were in when you were director of housekeeping? Are there different challenges? Is it harder or easier? Or what have you been noticing? Because employment has been an issue in the last couple of years as far as finding good help for any industry.
Yeah. So I would say, it is very similar. However, the job market is a little bit tougher these days than it used to be, but the process is still the same. All the interviewing tactics that I learned during my career in hospitality is the same tactics I use right now. However, I have my own core values. We were using different core values while I was in the hotel, so I hire based on core values.
Yeah.
And it is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
But usually when I hire pretty good people. It just takes a little longer now than it did back then.
Well, and also kind of, the idea that when you're turning over a hotel room, you're at what? You said you're at a really small time crunch. And if it needs a little bit of extra care, it's going to be hard to get that in there. Whereas when you're working with in a residential house, if you need to add some extra time to take care of something, you have the ability to do that, right?
Yes. In a hotel, you're on a very strict timeline. Typically, it's a 30-minute per turnover checkout room and 20 minutes for a stayover room. And that can be really, really tough to accomplish.
Which is funny because it's it sounds bad, but we've all been there. If you show up and your room's not ready at the time that you wanted it to be ready, you're getting all mad, you're getting mad at the end, and you're like, they got people there.
Yeah.
They're trying to get it ready for you, but it's kind of like the industry that the expectations that we've created, even as guests. When you're a guest, you want the room to be ready when
Yeah.
it's time to be ready. So it kind of makes sense. But that's the so that's the thing. It's like if you have a high standard of cleanliness, cleaning is, you're gonna be able to apply that extra effort to
Yes.
some degree. So, now as far as standards of clean, I asked you a little bit this beforehand, before we were recording too. It's like, how do you what does a high standard of cleanliness look like? Can you give like a specific, like when you look at a shower, maybe that's too gross. Maybe you need to like go with an easier example. But so you were mentioning like dust on the HVAC or the AC vents and stuff like that. Like, what does a high standard of cleanliness look like to you, would you say?
Oh, definitely that attention to detail, dusting those items that people usually don't think of dusting, and some cleaners don't touch those items either. But like even the shower, like you said, you can tell when a shower is well cleaned, especially glass shower doors that are very popular in most houses these days. They build up hard water stains on them, and that can be really hard to clean. And a good house cleaner can get them clean, but not everyone can.
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't know if you did this on purpose, but it's like the things that you mentioned definitely has that hospitality background you can see, because like when you mention examples, you're like light switches, doorknobs, and I was like, why does she keep talking about light switches? Like I've never well, I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't say too much, but I don't think I've ever cleaned a light switch.
You should check them out when you get home.
But if you think about it, what is being touched every single day, multiple times a day, year over year? And I'm wondering if maybe that's just kind of like your background in hospitality, where it's like doorknobs, light switches. Those are the things that are constantly being used, being touched, greased up and oily and whatnot, and probably unnoticeable if you're not in the industry.
Yeah, and during the deep clean or the detailed move-in, move-out clean, also just the wood on the doors themselves, around the doorknobs, it's usually... You can see like handprints or grease stains around it. The crevices in the doors, like doors have the decorative cutouts on them. All of those little crevices collect dust, so those all need to get wiped. That's not something everybody does either.
Now, can you? I don't know if this is a secret, but like, what kind of like products are you using to get some of that stuff? Like, are you just spraying it with like? Is it like a sanitizing product or like what are you using for that stuff? Are you just dusting it with a cloth, or is it like a cleaner getting in there?
So we use, it's not a secret.
Trade secrets here. We're going to get her to spill the beans.
The products that we use are Ecolab products. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ecolab, but they're a big distributor in the United States. They supply chemicals to a lot of restaurants, hotels, hospitals. They're industrial. Usually, if you go to the restroom in any restaurant,
there you go. Yep.
The soap dispenser will say Ecolab on it. So we use their products, and our go-to product is hydrogen peroxide, which is a disinfectant, which kills norovirus within 45 seconds, and kills 99% of all viruses within 3 minutes. So that's our go-to. It's EPA certified, and it's safe for most surfaces. If that's not good enough for the doors and the baseboards and all of that, if there's any moisture or dust settled on the wood, it's very hard to get it off with just like wiping it off with a rag. It's actually good to use a degreaser for that. Before wiping it off. So you would think degreaser would be only used in the kitchens, but it actually works really good on handprints, on wood, on the baseboards, and even for soap scum in the bathroom. Sometimes you can use degreaser first before you disinfect.
That's cool. Do you ever get people asking for like natural chemicals, or like have a specific requirement as far as what products you can use?
We do.
Are you able to accommodate that, or is it kind of you refer them to somewhere else?
So all of the chemicals that we use from Ecolab, they're Green Seal certified.
Okay.
And that's what we're gonna do. If some people still are looking for something even more natural. Like I've had someone ask me to clean their house with just vinegar and baking soda. We can't do that, unfortunately. It's very hard to train the staff on the products we already use and then have them do something completely different in a different house.
And then
that's
also
something maybe for like a single house cleaner that is able to like customize the cleaning to the customer's needs. But we train everybody on the products that we are using, and we know what's safe for what. Vinegar is not safe on all surfaces. You know, it's very acidic. You can't use it on natural stone. You can't use it on a lot of things. There's different types of fixtures, you know, you have brass and bronze and all of that. Like there's different products that are safe for different surfaces, and all of our cleaners are trained exactly on what to use.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because and I'm sure there's also an element of a standard too. Yeah. It's like you don't want to walk out of the house and be like, hey, you know, it's not that clean because you only let me use vinegar and baking soda. So, you know, so now it's like you have your own personal standard, and you want to, you know, to meet that standard, you're going to have to use the products that you need to get there. So.
Yeah, sometimes when I see people looking for, I'm looking for a house cleaner, but you have to use our own products and you have to do this, I don't even reach out because I know that's not our customer. Yeah. You know, we are kind of like, if you had a plumber, you would not ask him to use your tools, right? Like you let him use his tools. Right. So we are comfortable with our tools, with our products, and we just won't do it, unfortunately.
Cool. Now, do you guys do any commercial work? Because we were talking about investment properties a little bit, but what about like offices and stuff like that?
We have done a few small offices, but because right now the team that we have works Monday to Friday during business hours, which is also one of our attractions for hiring, you know. Again, it's very hard these days to get people to work. So when you offer a job that's only Monday to Friday within business hours, it's much easier than saying you have to work weekends and holidays and nights, you know. So we are able to we're able to clean offices, but only during those normal business hours. So sometimes there is like a maybe dental office that's closed on Fridays. So we would be able to do that. Or somebody who doesn't come in to work until later in the day, we could clean in the morning. But we are not doing any of the outside of those hours.
And that probably allows you to focus on the residential
like
needs of as opposed to a commercial or office need. Yes. And I'm sure if you do an office, it's probably going to have a more residential standard.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of times you have the overnight guy, you know, the janitor. He's out there doing his thing, listening to his headphones and stuff. But they're not necessarily cleaning it to like someone lives here standard, I would say. Yeah. Like I would assume that the standard for residential might be higher. No offense to any of the commercial cleaners out there. We'll probably have a commercial cleaner out there, and he'll be like, "Sean, you're completely wrong about everything," and I'm like, "All right, that's fine." But I'm sure the standard for the people that you're working with is pretty high, and that's why they appreciate and work with you. So that's awesome. All right, well, I've got like a million questions, but I really appreciate you coming in. I want to keep you here all day. What's the best way for people to find you if they're curious, if they want more information, or they want you to come and clean their house? What's the best way they can reach you?
Best way to reach us is on our website, www.mariespromise.com. People are also able to get an instant estimate for their house cleaning on the website. If they don't want to do that, they can just reach out to me at marie.jedd@mariespromise.com, and we can set up a walkthrough. I can come and give an in-person estimate. Some people are looking for, a quick, I want to know how much it would be. They can go directly to the website, and some people want to meet before getting a quote. So we can do that as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you too.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.
This episode is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty in Downingtown, PA. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, we have a real estate expert for you. Search for homes or contact an agent at acerealtypa.com.